In this lesson, I'll be showing you how to do some two-dimensional drafting using the tools that we used. We're going to be building the profile shape of a wrench. You can see the file that we'll be using if you go to File and open the folder location with your sample files and find the wrench.3dm file and click Open. Here's the object which we'll be drawing. To get started, we'll go to File, New, and we'll be choosing a template with the appropriate scale and units for the object that we're constructing. In this case, small object inches is most appropriate. We can click Open, and that begins a new work session. Maximize the top view. We're going to draw the handle part of the wrench. To do so, we go to Curve, Line, Single Line. It's good practice to draw off the center or the origin of the construction plane. This will make it easier if you get in the habit to be able to mirror things, split and trim, so that you can create objects and only have to create a portion of them in order to build the entire thing. So to start off, the position that we're going to use is going to be a 1/4 inch to the right of the origin, and we'll draw another line a 1/4 inch to the left of the origin, making it a 1/2 inch in width. So I'm going to start out by specifying 0.25 in the x, comma, and 0 in the y. Now this is my start point. I'm going to draw the handle 4 inches long, and to do so, I can use a shortcut to draw in both up and down, or above and below the center point. I'm going to do this by clicking both sides. Now I can draw and type in the length that I want. I'm going to type in 2 and press enter, which will give me a 4-inch long curve because the distance is being specified from the start point here to the end point here, but then the both sides option is turned on, so it doubles the length. To make this perpendicular, hold the Shift key and click. We're going to repeat this process on the left side. In this case, we'll be using a negative x value. Curve, line, single line, this time negative 0.25, comma 0, enter. Both sides, 2, and enter, hold Shift, and click. If you make a mistake at any time during this process, you can always click the undo button. I'm going to go back forward by clicking the right click button and redo. In the next step, I'll be drawing a hex polygon, which will be the closed end of the wrench. We go to Curve, Polygon, Center Radius Construction Method. You want to make sure that the number of sides is set to 6. So if it's not, click on Number of Sides, type in 6, and press Enter. In this instance, we'll be wanting to use the circumscribed option. If we don't, I'll show you what the problem is. If I go ahead and enter the center as 0 and press Enter, you can see that I begin drawing this polygon from the center point to one of the points. So now if I specify a distance of a 1/2 inch, and again since we're going from the center out to an edge, we're going to use half that distance. And if the numbers get odd and aren't nice round even numbers, like 0.5 and 0.25, you can do arithmetic on the command line. For example, you could type 0.5 and then use the front slash for divided by, and then 2 and press enter. I'm going to hold Shift and click. Because the distance is from this center point to a corner, you can see that the overall width of the object between any two flat sides is not at a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to click undo and correct this problem by going to Curve, Polygon, Center Radius. Our number of sides is 6, and I'm going to use the circumscribed option, 0, enter. Now this polygon is being drawn as if circumscribed inside of a circle. Now we could type in the distance that we want from the midpoint of one flat to the center. So I'll type in 0.25, enter. I can hold Shift and come out to the side and click. Now you can see that the width from any two flats, or the distance between any two flats, is a 1/2 inch. If you need to check any of these dimensions because you're unsure, you can go to the Analyze and choose Distance, find some points to snap to, like these endpoints up here, turn on end snap, we'll click our first point for distance and our second point for distance. We can see here that the distance equals 0.5 inches, and the distance is measured out to 3 decimal places because that's the tolerance of our model. We're going to draw the outside of the closed end of the wrench with a circle. We go to Curve, Circle, Center Radius. The center of the circle is 0. Now we're going to draw the outside dimension of the circle. Check and see which mode you're in. Currently I'm in diameter mode. If you're in radius mode, you can see when I click radius, that becomes the item in bold in the front. Whatever number we type in is going to be 2 times that for the diameter. I'm going to go back to diameter mode, and I want this to be 3/4 of an inch, 0.75. When designing, you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're building is engineered properly and has enough thickness to it for the particular process and manufacturing methods. I want to check this dimension here and make sure we have enough thickness. Analyze, distance, endpoint. The center snap is in my way. I'm going to turn it off and choose quad and come up to the quad. I have less than 1/10 of an inch. I'm going to thicken this up a little bit, and I'm also going to make sure I have some extra room for the hex head. To do so, we're going to use the offset command. Curve, offset curve, and I'm going to select this hex. We can only offset one curve at a time. I'm going to set the corner mode to sharp. If we set the corner mode to smooth or round, or also use chamfer, we'll end up changing how the corners of this polygon are formed when this is offset. We want them to keep nice and sharp points, so we have the corner method set to sharp. I'm going to give a bit of clearance for a 1/2 inch hex head bolt, approximately 10 thousandths. So I'm going to type in 5 thousandths. This will give us 10 thousandths oversized. Press enter. Now the distance equals 5 thousandths, and I can click. So now the total size is 10 thousandths bigger than the original polygon. I'm going to put the original curve on another layer by selecting it, right-clicking on that layer, choosing Change Object Layer. I don't need this curve for the time being, so I can turn off the red layer using the light bulb. I also want to thicken up this area, so to do so, I'm going to offset the circle. Curve, offset curve, select the circle, and I'm going to add 50 thousandths, 0.05. Enter. So now we'll be 100 thousandths larger. Because this was the incorrect circle, I don't need this anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and select it and delete it. I'm going to now drag this into position by selecting both curves with the crossing method, using Shift and dragging it down. When you drag this down, make sure that these lines from the handle are somewhat inside of the circle. You can bring it close to the edge, just don't bring it beyond. Again, I'm holding Shift when I'm dragging this object to make sure that it stays on center. If you do move it and you forget to hold Shift, just go ahead and click the undo button to move back a step. Now I'm going to draw the top of the wrench. I'm going to begin by drawing an arc. Curve, arc, start end direction. I'm going to use the 2 endpoints here, this one and this one. And the direction of the arc, I'm going to come down, and I'm just approximating the arc and clicking. So this is going to be the backside of the pocket for the open end of the wrench. I'm going to go ahead and drag this up using Shift. We're now going to need a couple curves for the sidewalls of the open end of the wrench. We're going to do this by drawing 2 lines. Curve, line, single line. I'm going to come and snap to the end point, and we know that the hex head is about 1/2 of an inch, so I'm going to draw this at 0.6. This gives us a little excess. Enter, hold Shift to keep it straight, going 90 degrees, and click. I'm going to repeat this process. Right-click to repeat the last command, end snap, 0.6, enter, and Shift, and click. I'm now going to draw the outside end of the wrench. Curve, circle, 3 points. End point, end point. And then we can use the third point by coming down, and I'm just approximating the size so that it looks correct. And I'm going to click. I'm going to select both of these objects. Make sure you get all of them. Drag up using Shift and let go. We're almost to completion. To finish this off, I'm going to do some trimming. I'm just going to select all the objects and start the trim command. I can now get rid of the pieces that I want to remove. Simply click on the ends of the curves or the middles that you need to remove. When you're done, you can press right click. The object stays selected, and I'm going to click Join. 8 curves joined into one closed curve. You can see now that we have this outside section all as one closed curve, and then we have this polygon here, which is the closed end of the wrench. This completes the basic drafting tutorial for drawing a wrench. Once you're complete with the wrench, we can go ahead and save this file. To save the file, we go to File, Save As, choose an existing file if you want to save over a current file, or type in a new name. I already have the file that I'm going to use, so I'm just going to go ahead for demonstration purposes and save over top of this existing file. Rhino will prompt you if you're saving over top of an existing file. I'm going to click Yes.